Welcome to the Sandwich Generation Podcast, a resource for adults balancing the dual responsibilities of raising children and caring for aging parents. Whether you're helping your parents downsize, explore real estate options, navigating caregiving, or looking for practical advice to help your family thrive, this is the place for you. Join us as we bring you expert insights, heartfelt stories, and actionable items to support you and your family within this unique generation. Hello.
Hello there.
Morning.
Good morning, Miss Stacey. We were starting to get caught up before we hit record, and we found that some of the best conversation is like during that catch-up time. So Sara hit record so we could, and she didn't talk to you on purpose so that we could get some authentic conversation going. Absolutely. I told Stacey before we started that I missed her. We haven't seen her because we moved our events to quarterly.
I know, it does feel weird.
If you send me the schedule, I can continue to drop off the gift basket if you guys want it. I don't know how many people are coming, but just let me know when they are and I'll drop it off.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we moved our Indie Senior Living series, that's what we're talking about, by the way, to quarterly instead of monthly. And Stacey is famous for her wonderful handmade gift baskets that we give away. And yeah, we'd love them. I will be happy to send you the schedule after this conversation here. So
May 8th is our next one.
Okay. Where's pen?
Yeah, put it on your calendar.
I will. Let me know where you're hosting.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have a brand new location.
We had a really good turnout.
That's great.
In February.
Yeah.
Was it February?
Yep. Yeah. I think the location makes a difference. People know the old Knights of Columbus, and it's really easy to get to, and it's pretty centrally located in terms of getting the Broad Ripple people and the Hamilton County people, straight down Keystone.
It's not far from anybody in the area, so more and more of them can come out and enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one lady said, "This is in my backyard, so I don't have an excuse to not come anymore." So we loved our place last year. It was a beautiful conference room, but it was just too hard to get to. So anyway, you want to introduce yourself, Stacey, and tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. My name is Stacey Bunes. I work for a company called Clear Captions, and we are a federally certified provider of caption telephones to anyone with hearing loss at no additional cost to them. And as I like to say,
it's free. What?
We're not allowed to use the F word.
Oh, no F word.
Which
no cost.
It's a big laugh, but there's no cost to anyone with hearing loss. It's actually the law that people with hearing loss get to have a quote unquote normal telephone conversation. And that's where we come in. So this is a federal program.
Wow. That's great. And so how is it no cost?
So everybody's paying for it. So if you look on your home phone, cell phone, cable TV, and internet bills, under taxes and fees, it says something like Federal Universal Service Fund. And that's actually what pays for this service. And fun fact, you've been paying fees on a phone bill since 1934. So,
oh, wow.
We've all paid for this. And
so we've already paid for it, is what you're telling me.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow. Absolutely. Okay.
So, you were saying earlier that you have been swamped actually with mainly veterans, but so tell us a little bit about, your story about how you got connected with Clear Captions and maybe, who your main clients are.
Sure. So I was in telecom for almost 30 years before I came to the company. I was not happy at my previous position. And I saw an ad on one of the job sites for selling telephones. And I was like, whatever, just get me out of here. And it was Clear Captions. And they were pretty new at that point and just branching out with outside salespeople. And I applied for the job and I got it. And it's been amazing. because I have hearing loss and I had never heard of a caption telephone before. So not only was I excited to do the job, I could relate to the job. And the caption phone has become a great benefit to me personally because I can now talk to my brother on the telephone because not only is the telephone amplified, so it's much louder, but also the words are coming across the screen. So while I hear what he says, I don't understand what he said. It's like one big long run on word. So the words coming across help me break it down so I can answer intelligently instead of doing the okay, yeah kind of conversation. So I feel
Wow.
like it's my
Interesting.
mission to go out and get these telephones into the hands of the people who would really benefit the most from them. And that's anyone with hearing loss. But my focus has turned more to veterans. The VA hospitals are swamped and slammed. The audiology department, they're wonderful about providing hearing aids, but realistically, they don't have the time to make sure that their clients have everything else that goes along with that. And actually, that's not their job, that's mine. And
Sure.
so, I want to make sure that we get these telephones into the hands of anybody with hearing loss.
Yeah. So your personal story, I mean, you can relate. You have a clear caption phone in your home. And by the way, what is a clear caption phone? We've touched on it a little bit, but we
Sure.
haven't really gone into the details yet. I know it's early, but
Okay. I
oh,
did
look at you.
remember to
Oh,
bring
look.
my phone
Yeah.
into my office.
Great.
So it's very hard to see on this, but this is the telephone.
Yeah.
And the nice part is you don't need a landline anymore. Like this phone is just plugged into electricity and connected to the internet in my home, and it's a fully functioning telephone.
So so you can, if you have a like Wi-Fi or internet provider, then you're good.
Yeah, the only qualifications to get the phone are hearing loss and internet. That's it. If people have a landline, and there are people who do, we connect it into the landline so that it has the same phone number as all of the other telephones in their home, which they still will have. But so many people got rid of their landlines that now we can help more people as long as they have internet. And if they don't, I try to help them get into one of the discount programs so they can have a phone at a
Oh,
reasonable
wow. Okay.
hmm
So you said
So
the qualifications are hearing loss and an internet provider. So how do you determine, like, does somebody have to say, like, does a doctor have to say that they have hearing loss, or how does that work?
So the only one who can actually determine if you have hearing loss that necessitates the use of captions is the person. Now, of course, if they wear hearing aids, obviously you have hearing loss. Or if they have gotten their hearing tested, hearing aids are crazy expensive and not everybody can
sure.
afford them. And so,
Or wear them. We also know they get them and don't wear them.
yeah, I
So
mean, I got to tell you, the VA hands out these amazing hearing aids that are $10,000 hearing aids. The guys don't have to pay for them, but they don't wear them.
I
And
know. Yeah.
um, hearing loss is a journey. Wearing hearing aids is also a journey because now you can hear the refrigerator running. You never heard that before. And now all of a sudden you have this buzzing. And so it takes time to get used to them, but people get very
yeah.
frustrated in those first day or they're like, ah. And so they don't wear.
It's almost like probably like an overstimulation or something.
It's 100% an
That's what I
overstimulation.
was
Wow.
thinking.
And I always tell them, ease yourself into this.
Sure.
Wear
Yeah.
them for 2 hours. If all you can stand is 2 hours, wear them for the 2 hours. And then in a week, go to 3 hours and then 5
Yeah.
hours. Just expand it until you find you're comfortable. And today, they're adjustable with a cell phone. They put an app on your phone connected to the hearing aids and you can adjust everything.
Oh,
But
yeah.
you need that time for your
Sure.
brain to relearn. And people with hearing loss who don't wear hearing aids or who can't afford them, one of the problems is that they withdraw. And so it
Yeah.
causes depression and dementia. And dementia is horrible for anybody and also for their
Right.
family. So I'm like, guys, do puzzles, get a phone, be social, come out of your apartment. It's important. And so that's also
really something I've never even thought about until we talked about it today. The hearing aids and the reason for people not wearing them. I was thinking more on just they're uncomfortable or they can't get them at the right volume. And, they do that crazy beeping or whatever. I never thought about going from not hearing or hearing very little to hearing every single sound.
Every time I get
so overwhelming.
Yeah. And every time I get new hearing aids, I have to go through that process too. And I wear my hearing aids religiously. So, again, it's always your hearing loss never gets better. It's only going to get worse. And so each time you step up in a hearing aid, now I have to get used to them too.
It's like a new process all over again. Yeah.
I
never thought about that. I always thought it was more of a vanity thing, to be honest, where they just didn't want to wear them because it was like, I don't want anyone to know. Yeah. But gosh, we talk about communication and how important having conversations and having that communication is with our parents or our loved ones, anyone we're caregiving for. And if we're not able to communicate from a hearing loss, deficiency, that kind of thing, this could be super helpful to make sure we're having the right conversations and people aren't just saying like what you were saying, like, okay, just kind of going along with the conversation.
Right. And if they're not part, there are ways to make sure that you can involve them in the conversation, so that the best thing you can do for a loved one with hearing loss, whether they wear the hearing aids or not, don't talk at the back of their head. Like, they are not going to
look at them.
You need to make sure not only that you're looking at them, but they're looking at you. I read lips, and I need to be able to see what you're saying to me. Shut the television off. Try to make sure there's not so much background noise.
Right.
Focus is harder when you have hearing loss because you still hear things all around, but you have to focus on the conversation. And therefore, any background noise, or if you're washing dishes and talking at the same time, people with hearing loss are going to have trouble hearing you. And
I mean, if I'm at the sink doing dishes or whatever, my kids are talking to me, I can't hear them. The water's running, and they might be yelling from, but
I say that all the time. I have the water running. You're going to have to come in here. I can't hear you. So I can't even imagine if, you have a hearing loss on top of that.
Right. My children knew that they would stand behind me and ask me for something. Usually, of course, it was money. Right. And I said, if you stand behind me, the answer is no. And they laugh. I mean, this is a normal part of my children's life, but most families, it's not. And I have, here's a little bit of information for you. Anyone over 40 is living with hearing loss. And that's not me making this up. This is the National Institute of Health. Doesn't mean you need a hearing aid, but it definitely means you need to go for a hearing screening because you need your baseline.
Yeah.
They're going to try to sell you hearing aids because that's their job. And your answer can be no. And no is a complete answer. And hearing aids are expensive, and insurance generally does not pay for them. Now, the upside is Medicare has started to pay for hearing aids, glasses, dental work. So, if you have an advanced plan.
One time, did I hear that? Like they'll pay for them one time or something like that?
One time every so many years. So hearing aids generally have a lifespan of 5 years. They may last longer, but your warranty is 5 years. So they're going to, if you have a really good hearing aid provider, they're going to let you know it's been 5 years. Let's look. How are they working? What are they? All those good things. But the insurance companies have contracted with a provider. You just need to reach out to your Advantage plan to find out who the contracted group is and go there. And then depending upon the level of your hearing loss, sometimes they cover the full set of hearing aids. Most of them give a $3,000 allowance. Now, if you have severe hearing loss and need the $10,000 hearing aids, there may be some out of pocket, but it's not $10,000.
Right.
And
so back to that conversation about being in front of your face and when you're in front of someone and making sure they're looking at you when you're talking. You might know this statistic. I've seen it multiple times, but isn't like 90% of communication nonverbal anyway?
Yes.
It's like something really high. And so I think being in front of someone's face when you're talking to them anyway is important, whether they have hearing loss or not.
It is.
You know what,
because facial
that
expression.
yeah, that makes so much sense on why we're seeing this is a total like rabbit hole my brain just went down, but why we're seeing so many younger people not be able to have conversations or look people in the eye because they don't do that. They text and they're not having those like face-to-face
Yeah.
conversations with people anymore. So, oh my gosh, my brain just went down a whole rabbit hole with that.
No, like when your kids, they want you to order for them or go ask somebody at the store a question because they can't. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
I've made my kids since they were little, they have to order for themselves or they're just not going to eat.
Oh, we made our children like number one, and it's funny because I sold cell phones for like 15 years. My children didn't have a cell phone because why? And we were like the only kids who didn't have them, and I still didn't care. And when they went to high school, that's when, because my kids went to private school. There was no bus.
Yeah.
We were the bus. So why do you need a cell phone? But high school, they went to public high school, and now sports, and okay, that's where I see you need the cell phone. And so I want my children, and they do. They're grown now. They know how to talk. As a matter of fact, both of them are going. My oldest is in a field where she definitely has to talk, and she works with children. And my younger daughter's getting ready to go to law school, and she can 100% talk. The hard part with the 22-year-old is she has a lot to say, and she talks fast. Everyone needs to slow down the way they talk and enunciate each word. And then we'll all be able to understand each other much better.
Well, kids don't get that either because, on a lot of the social media platforms, you can hold in a certain place and fast forward anything. You can put it in like 2 times. Like I'm thinking of TikTok in particular. You can hold a spot on your phone and whatever somebody's saying, they can fast forward it twice. They're all about just sound bites, which is another rabbit hole. Yeah. But
the 30
I talk to my kids in like 1-word sentences because that's all they're listening to. I just say like, Helen, dishwasher, Helen, trash, Helen, feed the animals, that's pushing it.
Right.
But it's insane, right? I wonder what that's going to look like when our little millennials and Gen Zers get to be our age, right?
Oh, it's gonna be a very different world because people's attention span is about 30 seconds.
Sure.
And I'm listening to several podcasts about this as well, about nobody watches a television show that's longer than 20 minutes, and they want to zip through all the commercials because they don't care and all of those. And it's unfortunate that because this is a downside to what's going on. FaceTime or video chat has become a wonderful thing because, families are more spread out now. So you can see each other to talk. That's a huge benefit.
Yeah.
But we do need to focus more on each other instead of this little thing. And older adults, they don't get that. And I'm talking about significantly older adults, like in their 80s. They just, their families hand them a smartphone and they're like, I just want a phone.
Right. Yeah.
There's definitely
there are still some, and I think we'll get to a point where people in their 80s are comfortable with cell phones, but we're not quite there yet. And so I'm sure in your work, just like us, we have to adjust. If we are working with a downsizing client who's not comfortable with using technology, we're good old paper and pen.
Right. Yeah. It's like I installed a phone for a lady yesterday and she was in her mid-90s and she looked at our phone and was like, oh, this is
really,
like, it's just a telephone. It just has buttons. You dial your friends and family. And I didn't even bother showing her half the features of the phone because she wasn't going to use them.
Right.
Yeah.
It was scaring her. And I
Is there
was
a feature
like,
on the phone that you could save or program the phone numbers that she would need, like the one or two numbers, so she could easily. I
right.
feel like you told me about that at one point.
Yeah. So the phone is like a smartphone. So we build in contacts for them. There's voicemail. So with the contacts, I go in and install most of the phones that I sign the people up. So I go to their home and I
Right.
set it up for them. And then based on their fear level or lack of, hope, most of them, as the years have passed, are coming more comfortable with this, but I program it for them. And then I teach them how to use the phone based on their comfort level and what they're looking for. There's
Sure.
sometimes parts of the phone they don't want to use, don't use it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That
And
goes back to
That's
that
great.
overwhelm part. Just keep it
Right.
simple for what they actually are going to use it for. Yeah,
right. And
makes
so
sense.
many of them have a smartphone that they don't know how to use, and they press the buttons and they do something and they don't know what they did and they don't know how to
Yeah.
fix it. And
All of a sudden, 911 has been called.
right. So I tell them it's really important to remember you're not going to break this phone by pressing the buttons. I've been doing this almost 10 years now, and I have yet to have anyone break the phone by pressing the buttons. But if they figure out how to do it, just call me and I'll come fix it for them.
Yeah.
And so, we are here for them.
Wow.
You were saying earlier you are covering a larger territory than I thought.
Mm-hmm. I cover all of Indiana and Kentucky. And actually, I've had referrals from all over the country. And I make sure they get a telephone. If, I don't care if you live in Spokane, Washington, we will have somebody go to your house and set up the phone for you. And if you live in a really remote area and there are no technicians in your area, we have a full team that will sit with you on the telephone while they set it up. And we'll schedule around your schedule. So if you want your kid or your grandchild to be the one to do it, we'll say, okay, 10 o'clock, call them and start having them set up the phone. And they're like, oh, this is a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. This is no problem. Great.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
So it works like a regular telephone. It rings normal. They answer.
Yeah.
And then
it is louder.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's louder.
Really loud.
And then the screen, that was a pretty decent sized screen I saw that you held up there. So then as someone starts talking, like the words just start flowing on the screen so that they can read along with the conversation.
Right.
Okay.
There is a little delay to the words because we don't know what people are going to say ahead of time.
Right.
Until they talk and it runs through software and gets to your telephone, there's about a 3 to 5 second gap. But most people, because the phone is so much louder, they're like, oh my gosh, I can hear this.
Yeah.
And the words are the backup.
Yeah.
And the next part is the conversation is stored in the telephone. So you can go back in and say, oh, I talked to the doctor on such and such a day, but I didn't remember what time my appointment was. And you can go back and reread the conversation, find out you need to be there at noon. And for families who have, if the older adult has a caretaker, they can check those calls to make sure that they didn't, find out they're going to be getting $10 million if they just send $1,000.
Yes, that's what I was
Yeah.
that keeps them from when the telemarketers call. If you're an adult child, you could make it a habit of just going in there and looking real quick.
Yeah.
At what's going on. That's what I was going to ask next. Technology is evolving faster than we can think. It seems like. What sort of new technology, if is in the works for Clear Caption telephones?
They are. They don't tell us very much about the new developments of the phone, but I am actually one of the developers. Actually lives here in Indiana, and so she and I have had conversations. about what they're going to be doing. So they are looking to build a new phone, but
Okay.
I don't have an ETA when that's going to come
Right.
out. They've been looking at apps for cell phones because we've become so cell phone centric. But
Yeah.
the thing about the apps is, and this is across the board, it's not just us, it's anybody who provides a captioning app for a cell phone. It does come with its own phone number. And that's a turnoff to people because, well, everybody has my cell phone number. And I don't really want to deal with two phone numbers on one cell phone. And so,
Got it.
in that sense, they'll take the home phone sometimes because it's a backup. Because and we're going to give them a phone number to go with the phone if they don't have a landline. And it's a local number. So they end up having a home phone and the cell phone, and people are still more comfortable that way than they are with two cell phone numbers.
Yeah, that makes sense. I
That's
could see that.
interesting.
And
Yeah.
the only way the cell phone app really benefits anybody is if you have a Bluetooth connection to your hearing aids, because you can only make a cell phone so loud. And that's why everybody walks around with it on speaker at booming volume, is because they're attempting to hear and understand. And when you have hearing loss, 2 years are always better than one. So, that's also part of the whole thing. So that's
I
why
was
everybody's walking
thinking
around.
more like video technology. If you've got the screen and you've got the capability to save those conversations, I wonder if there's any sort of video technology that could be added to the current phone that, I don't know. We'll have to talk to the developer about that.
Yeah. Yeah, she just had a baby, so I think she's still off. But
all right, we'll leave her alone for a little bit.
We're looking to develop it's not really a cell phone, it's a portable phone where they would be able to kind of move around with it and still have captions on it. I've told you everything I know about that. That's all they're telling us, which is fine, because years ago they told us we were getting the phone I showed you, and we didn't get it for 5 years after they had showed it to us. And I was like,
okay.
So
yeah. I mean,
technology. Well, since it's a federal program, I'm sure there are so many regulations that they have to weed through. So, which would slow down development, of course.
It does, because there are several regulations, and every year I have to go through training on all different kinds of things because we're federally certified. But we are the only caption telephone company that has full certification for 5 full years. The other companies are probationary and get a year to year. And one of them is actually...
What does that mean, though? What does that mean to a consumer?
For one, I'm not going to badmouth my competition because I don't believe in that. But they've either had issues where they weren't following compliance. One of the companies has been fined twice, $40 million for scamming the fund. So they're overcharging the fund. They've released client information. These are if anybody says to me, "Is Mrs. Smith one of your customers?" my answer to them is, I am not allowed to answer your question.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah.
So leaking data. So everyone else, you're the only one that is full certification through the federal program. All of your competitors are probationary because they've somehow gone awry in terms of the guidelines.
Yeah, there must have been something about it, but our CEO is so committed to this. We write checks back to the fund if we've taken money what we consider fraudulently. And I'll give you an example. I install a phone for Mrs. because she has the hearing loss, and Mr. doesn't have hearing loss, doesn't want to use the phone. But in the interim, life goes on, and he's got hearing loss now, and he has started to use the phone, but it is only registered to the wife.
Right.
When Mrs. passes away and Mr. has continued to use the phone, and we find out Mrs. has passed, so we shut the phone down, and I get a phone call. I go to their house, I take out the phone that was registered to Mrs. and re-register a phone to them, the husband.
Uh-huh.
And then when we find out when she passed away, any phone calls made after that, we write a check back to the fund because those were fraudulent phone calls.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Only
A lot
registered
of work.
users can use the telephone. Of course, if both husband and wife have hearing loss, I'm going to register both of them.
Right.
But our CEO is so committed to ethical standards. This is part of our mission statement is ethical behavior.
Yeah.
Words matter. And that's
Right.
what we believe in fully. And I just love the fact that our CEO is so ethical about that. It makes me proud. It makes
Yeah.
me very proud to work for this company, which I was anyway.
So
I saw yesterday you shared, I think I saw it yesterday. It could have been before that. You shared something about Clear Captions being like one of the top employers or something like that, places to
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
It was
That's
on
pretty
LinkedIn,
cool.
and I just repost stuff that the company posts because I've been here almost 10 years, and this is going to be the job that I die at because I love this job. It's easy.
that's
The
great.
company treats its employees really well. During COVID, I was furloughed, and they paid for my health insurance for me and my family
Wow.
100% and didn't ask us to pay them back. Like, they took care of us.
Yeah,
Mhm.
How do you
that's
walk away
great.
from a company like that?
Right.
So,
Well, I think that's a good spot to take a quick commercial break.
great.
And so we'll hear a bit from our sponsor real quick, and then we'll be back. Losing a loved one is never easy, but having a plan in place can bring peace of mind. That's where Indiana Funeral Care comes in.
That's right. Whether you're pre-planning for yourself or making arrangements for a loved one, Indiana Funeral Care offers compassionate, affordable, and personalized services to honor every life in a meaningful way.
And they don't just handle traditional funerals, they offer cremation services, military honors, and even customized celebrations of life, because saying goodbye should be as unique as a life lived.
With locations in Indianapolis and Greenwood, their team is here to guide you through every step with care and respect, so you can focus on what matters most, your family.
Visit indianafuneralcare.com to learn more about pre-planning options and how they can help you create a beautiful farewell for your loved one.
Indiana Funeral Care, because saying goodbye should be about love, not stress.
Well,
Thank you.
that's awesome that it's a great place to work and that they are so ethical. And I never would have guessed that there is a propensity to be fraudulent in the way that the phones are being issued to their customers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Especially since it is a federally funded program. And yeah, so I never would have guessed that.
Who would have thunk?
Who would have thunk?
But
Yeah,
you find when you work in an industry, the longer you work there, the more you learn about how everybody else is doing the same thing. And
yeah,
if you enjoy one of the competitors' phones, great. And if it's benefiting you, fabulous. Wonderful. Because I don't think of it as competition. We're just
sure.
out here to help people. And so many people live with hearing loss and they're missing out. And we just want to make their
Right.
lives better. So if you have an old phone and you're happy with it, more power to you.
What, I mean, maybe you know this, you probably know this. What are most of your customers using the phone for? Like, who are they talking to the most?
They talk to their family. And the phone's amazing for a doctor. Like, give your
I was thinking
doctors
that.
this phone number. You don't want to, especially if you're having adjustments made to medication daily, weekly. Um, I'm diabetic and they sometimes have to play with my insulin. I need to know that number. It's critically important that I understand that I need to lower my insulin for now. They call my caption phone. It has voicemail, so they leave me a message. I listen to it, but I'm also reading it and numbers are there. I'm not guessing at the amount of insulin I have to take, which is good because you don't want to pass out because you've overdosed on your insulin.
I don't think
Really bad.
You want to guess that.
Exactly. And, if you have young grandchildren who have those very high-pitched voices, they're difficult to understand and hear on the phone. But you want to talk to your grandchildren because they're amazing, right? Now you don't have to guess anymore. And you can talk to the little boy, little girl, whatever, and enjoy it and get pleasure. And I can't even tell you how many times I've installed a phone and they called the grandchild and they're talking and the wife or the husband is crying that they're really able to hear them on the phone. And so this sounds selfish. I'm okay with that, but it's really gratifying to help somebody like that. It's a great feeling.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, and I was just thinking
world for somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I was thinking how, people can, like you mentioned earlier, they seem like they're checked out or kind of tuned out, but it's because they're not able to hear. And like how many people maybe are, people are saying like, oh, is their memory loss? Like, why aren't they engaging in conversation? Well, it could just be that they can't hear. And so,
right.
My husband always says when he talks to his dad, he's like, I already said that, like I already said that to you. And it's like, yeah, but he didn't hear you. So just go with it,
And it is frustrating. Like I am sympathetic to my family in the sense of, it's just habit to just call across the house. Hey, Mom.
Yeah.
I'm like, guys, you can't do that anymore. I
just don't answer. I don't answer. If some kid is calling my name from upstairs, I don't answer unless it's like I can hear terror in their voice, but it's mostly just, stupid stuff.
My mom used to do that too. Like she would never respond and mom, over and over until you finally get up and walk in there. Right. And you're like, Mom, did you not hear me? And she'd always say, oh, I heard you. Just wait for you face to face with me. Like, yeah. But no, I think that just being able to listen and then read the words at the same time or as they're coming up on the screen would just, like you said, medications, but doctors, if they're calling to reschedule an appointment, like the words are there on the screen. How accurate do you feel like it is? Is there?
That's a good question.
That is a great question. So number one, we don't use human captioners. So I will say that up front. Nobody is listening to your conversation. We use software.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's good to know.
And that's also different from other companies. So if you're worried about listening to your conversation, we don't have people listening to your conversation. Not that matters. We're not, even when we had human captioners, you can do anything and say anything you want on the phone and we're not doing anything about it.
So somebody is like in the background typing everything that is in the conversation. That's what a human captioner does?
Depends upon what technology they're using. There is a lot of proprietary stuff for that. We didn't have people typing, they were revoicing. And that slowed the captions down too, because you got this human count. With AI. That's not there anymore. So I'll tell you the statistic the company uses, which is we strive for 98% accuracy. And we do. But there's a lot of factors that going into having correct captions. And that's the person who's talking.
Yeah.
They need to slow down. If they have an accent and you have difficulty understanding them, most likely the software will as well. Bottom line is, as long as you are getting the gist of what they are saying to you, you're in a good place. Proper names are probably not going to be spelled the way a person spells them if they have an unusual spelling.
Sure, yeah.
My name is a great example of that. I just don't get upset anymore that it spells it Stacy. Who cares? You know who I am.
Yeah.
I know. And then you have wood. Well, which wood are you talking about? W-O-O-D or W-O-U-L-D?
But in the context of a conversation, someone will understand.
You can figure that out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we
Sweet. So you mentioned accents. So I think I've heard you talk about this before. There are a couple of different languages that you can set the phone at, or no?
No, we tried doing Spanish language because that has been a big request.
Sure.
The problem with software differentiating between languages has become a bit of an issue.
Okay.
For example, the word sí in Spanish means yes.
Right.
Software couldn't determine if it was SI or it was SEE. And we still haven't come over that hump. We're working on it. It's close. Because
Okay.
I know the owner or the CEO was pressing for that because it is such a request.
Sure.
Once you use software, I think that the direction things will go is more ability to translate other languages.
Right.
But that
Yeah, a lot of the components with AI currently is training it.
Yeah.
Just training it. I think I mentioned this to you, Sarah, like when we're doing our little clips. I saw this thing on StreamYard where you can give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. You have to sort of train it. So that's interesting. Yeah. Well, we'll have to keep an eye out for the
right. And like you can on the voicemail part, you can recaption it. So I've had some voicemails that were a little sketchy, so I keep hitting the recaption button. And the software has learned by the third or fourth time what they're actually saying, and I get better captions that way.
Oh, you can do that on the phone, like during the conversation?
Not during a conversation, but on the voicemail component, you can do that. The voicemail's hard because people don't understand that 60 seconds for a voicemail is actually a very long time. But so they talk fast.
Oh, yeah.
You have to kind of replay it a couple of times to get the caption better.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So talk slower, enunciate your words, and if you've got a high-pitched voice, try to bring it down a notch, I guess, right?
Well, you know what I get at most of the health fairs is the husband and wife. She's deaf. He can't hear a word I say. So again, fun fact, men lose high tones and women lose low tones. We literally cannot hear each other. And I always laugh and say to them, well, guys, that's called marriage. And they laugh. I'm like, go get your... So, every year you go get your eyes tested, especially if you wear contacts or glasses. And as you age, your eyes change again. You go more often. People don't go get their hearing screened. It's critically important to have a hearing screening. You have to know where your life is going and what adjustments you're going to need to make. And, you can walk into almost any hearing aid place, including Sam's Club and Costco, and get a free hearing screening.
Is that right? See, I didn't even know that. And
I feel like I've seen that at Costco, like free a sign or something, and free hearing. And you're right. I just never think about doing it. It's not, you go to the dentist, go to the eye doctor, but I have not really thought about the hearing part.
Right.
We are pretty involved with hearing for my son because my son has had, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 surgeries on his ears, and he's actually got implants. But my daughter and I, we don't, it's not something, I mean, she goes, like the school gives, hearing screenings, but that's good to know. Costco and Sam's Club,
Miracle Ear, Belltone, Indiana Hearing Aid, Connect Hearing.
They all get free.
They all get free hearing screenings. And again, they'll try to sell you hearing aids, but you can't say no.
You can say no. Yeah. So that was interesting too, that you mentioned women lose low tones and men lose high tones.
Yeah.
And so they're literally going the opposite direction.
Right.
Wow.
And we're all just walking around as we age, not being able to hear anything the other one says.
Right. And of course, I go to the gym. I stick those AirPods in my ears, and I've had people tap me on the shoulder and going, your music's really loud. And I'm like, yeah, I'm hard of hearing, and not just from this. This is where I have to be. But everybody sticks earbuds in and listens to music, and it's loud. And you know, I have hearing loss because of ear infections and surgeries. Like your son is going to
Yeah.
follow my path a little bit, hopefully
Right.
not for a long time, but you know, I resisted wearing hearing aids too because I was a teenager and I played sports and
Yeah. It's like,
and
who wants that? I
people are mean, but you know,
know. Kids are mean.
kids are terrible.
Well, adults are mean too sometimes, but yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. In junior high and high school, yeah, the last thing you want to do is stand out.
I mean, I've had customers, young customers, who wear hearing aids or cochlear implants,
Mhm.
and they enjoy being a normal kid, and talking on the
Yeah.
phone is a part of that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was gonna say too, a lot of time, I feel like this is more with men, and maybe this is sexist, but sometimes they just they don't hear, and so they just tune everything out. And maybe I wonder if it's, do they get sick of saying what, or do they just, it gets to a point where they just sort of give up,
Yeah, they do.
you know?
And I've had just as many women giving up as men.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a sexist conversation, in the fact that if a woman wears a hearing aid and she doesn't want anybody to know, well, you grow your hair a little longer.
Yeah, you can grow.
Men are not able
Yeah.
to do that in the same way. And
Right.
so they feel uncomfortable wearing a hearing aid because it makes them feel old.
Yeah.
Sure.
But they need to
So
stop.
that is what it is. It is sort of
Stigma.
pain
Horrible.
and the stigma of having a hearing aid. Sure.
Yeah. And that's a problem. We need to, as a society, hearing loss is a very prevalent issue. We need to stop stigmatizing it. Go get a
Yeah.
hearing aids, get your hearing screen, and stop, just let, and if anybody makes fun of you, say, well, at least I can hear what you're saying, and you're still an idiot.
Yeah, there you go. I wish I couldn't actually hear what you're saying.
Let me
now,
take this
but
out,
no.
actually. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Well, how do people get a hold of you, or how do I go and get a phone if I have hearing loss and I want to have a phone installed in my house?
And so if you want me coming to your house, you have to call me directly. My phone number is 317-771-8890. It is a cell phone, and you are most welcome to text me if you are more comfortable that way.
Okay.
Please do not go to our company's website and sign up. If that's what you feel like you need to do because you want to check out our website, it's clearcaptions.com. Don't sign up there because I won't be coming to your home to set up your telephone.
Okay. Who will be coming if you go to your website?
A technician will come. I mean, you're still going to get the phone, but if you want to have a dedicated rep and have my phone number in your phone,
right,
you need to contact me directly, because
it's more of a concierge service. Yeah.
Right? We have a concierge service in-house, and then I'm the one that takes care of you locally.
So if people are listening and they're not here locally, should they still call you to see if there's somebody like you where they live or where their loved one lives? Or
yeah, absolutely. So we have reps all over the country. We're a national company, again, federal program. So if there is a representative in your area, I'll collect the information and get in touch with them directly and make sure that they do the same thing. We're all trained the same way. White glove service, take care of the customer.
Sure.
But again, we don't have thousands of representatives. So if you live in a state, for example, Nebraska, we just don't have a representative there. I will walk you through the whole thing. I'll get a technician to come to your house, but you still are going to have my direct line number when you have a question, when you whatever, you need to talk to me. I'm here.
Sure.
I am literally just a phone call away.
Okay, so
Well, that's
317-771-8890.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And we will put that, I think we can put that on the screen, at least for some of our shorts.
I'll put it in the show notes too.
Thank you.
Yeah, there we go. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it has been so much fun catching up with you,
Yeah.
just from a personal perspective, right? And then also, I've learned a lot. We've worked
Yeah,
with
I
you
learned.
how many years now?
Right. Right. You and I have worked together almost 10 years already.
Mhm.
9 for sure. Cause
Yeah.
I'm going
Yeah.
to celebrate my 10-year anniversary with the company in July.
Oh,
So
that's
I'm
great.
expecting a Rolex. I'm not going to get that,
Oh,
but it'd be nice.
It might be a Folex. That's what I
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. Or
That's
Rolex
funny.
spelled with an A. Rolex. Okay.
Yeah.
It's all good. It's all good.
That's funny. Well, Stacey, it has been a pleasure having you on, and we are trying to be more intentional about telling our guests to comment, like, share, follow, stream, all the good things. Did I miss anything, Sarah?
I think that's it. Yeah,
Because
that's
we want to
good.
grow this podcast and get the
Yeah.
information like this that you're putting, you've shared with us today. We want to get it out to as many people as possible. So
Thank you.
we
It's
hope that our
great.
audience will do that. Yeah. Thanks a
Yeah.
lot.
Thanks,
Thanks, Lee.
Stacey.
Thank you.